You guys feel free to continue to eat. There's still more food out there, I think. I say that. I think it was. It was pretty good, so I appreciate all the work that everyone did in Gatlinburg to put this together. So what we're doing today is we're talking about a lot of the changes that have occurred in the industry lately. And I mean, there's change, but then there's like the pace of change, the way our industry is, the trajectory our industry is taking. So I brought together a few friends I've known for a while who are victims to discuss what's going on, especially in light of some of the more multinational look at it, also some of the M&A activity, and then bringing in some of the local area and what these regional companies are doing, and kind of how this whole thing fits together as we look at going into this new decade, into the 20s. So what I'm going to do, I've got Steve Milo, Jim Olin, CJ Stam, and John Madewell. But I would like for you guys to introduce yourselves, talk about your background in the industry, and who you work with now. Yeah, Steve.
All right, Steve Milo, CEO of V-Trips. We've got about 18 destinations in the area. We're here in Gatlinburg with a couple hundred cabins right here in Jackson Mountain Homes. And I guess I've been pretty outspoken on some issues, so this will be a fun panel.
Hi, I'm Jim Olin. I'm Jim Olin. I'm Steve Milo's father. I don't own any vacation rental companies, never will again. I have no employees. My partner's my son, and we do consulting, mergers and acquisition work, and litigation consulting. So we're the consultant. Okay, next.
Whoa. In your previous life, were you not the CEO of Resort Quest?
Yes, in a previous life, I was the CEO
Before
of
it sold to
Resort Quest,
Wyndham.
which is now part of Vicasa, which was part of Wyndham, but Vicasa's got them. I was also CEO of Sterling Resorts and Abbott Resorts, and I'm a retired CEO.
He's a recovering vacation rental manager.
You got it.
I'm CJ Stam, his other son.
There you go.
I run Southern Comfort Cabin Rentals in Blue Ridge, Georgia. My background is in hospitality, hotel management, real estate investing, put the two together, and here I am.
My name is John Madewell. My wife and I own a local cabin rental company, Antebellum's. We've been in business here since 1994. I've been doing it for 10 years now, and prior to that, I was with a global manufacturing company based out of Yellow Springs, Ohio.
So I appreciate you guys being here. I do have some interesting questions going on. One of the biggest pieces of news that happened in 2019 was Vicasa's purchase of Wyndham. We had on stage, spoken to Eric in the past, who's the former CEO of Vicasa, and Lino Maldonado was on our stage, who was the former Vice President of Wyndham Vacation Rentals. And so I was asking him, like, what should Vicasa be concerned about? And Eric's point was that they didn't expect to have much attrition because Wyndham was a publicly traded company. They were a large company, so owners were used to being a part of that kind of world. Lino strongly disagreed when we had this, and a conversation ensued, and this is on video. You guys will have that too after the show. That his biggest concern, and what it felt like he didn't believe could happen, is Vicasa's ability to onboard Wyndham's culture in the same way that they've been able to do that. Jim, do you think that they're going to have a problem transitioning homeowners and staff from the Wyndham model to the Vicasa model?
Thanks for putting me in the middle of this thing. And Lino's no longer with them.
Right.
Yeah, he moved on to better things. I'm biased because Wyndham is really 99% Resort Quest, which was my old company. It does have a completely different culture, okay? And I'm got to be blunt because I'm next to Milo, so I can't dance around. There's another culture issue. It's very similar to what Barry Diller said at Expedia on his press release and his earnings. Wyndham made money. Okay, they actually had a profit. Vicasa says they do, but, and I can tell you already in some of the major markets where Wyndham and Vicasa were the two big guys there, there's significant attrition. And the smaller companies are just sitting up under the table grabbing owners as they fall off the system. If you are in one of those towns, you need to take advantage of it, okay? They're going somewhere. So I think it's going to be a lot harder than what they envision, and I think there's going to be significant financial issues, and maybe that's why we're going to see a new leader there that decided to do one steps down, but you don't step down before you get your search committee finished and find a successor.
It was an odd move.
Yeah, it was not the move
It was
you'd expect
unusual.
for a company that's
Yeah.
going to try to go public and call themselves a tech company.
And for those of you who don't know, Eric Breon, who was CEO of Vicasa, stepped down as CEO and they put an interim CEO in his place. What made that interesting for a lot of people is that they've had a search going on for a CEO for a while, and putting an interim in place kind of raised a few eyebrows, as they're not a typical path.
It makes us know that there's some speed bumps that are going on, that they're, and it happens. For everybody out there that's not Vicasa and Wyndham, it's a tremendous opportunity. I'm going to give it back to you, I promise. There's a tremendous opportunity, and take advantage of it. There's nothing wrong with that, okay? Here.
So really quickly, to add to this when you're thinking about your answer, you've bought 5 companies in the Smoky Mountain area?
Yeah, we've rolled up 5 companies.
So Jackson Mountain, Smoky Mountains.
Cabin Fever, Mountain Chalet, and then Pioneer recently.
So you've actually kind of pulled in, they were pretty big companies here. I mean, some of these were very well known and well thought of. Have you, with good reputations, have you been able to maintain that good reputation in this marketplace?
I think so. I mean, look, integration's hard, right? So Jim alluded to it, and I think the Vicasa issue, there's a lot of integration problems as well as cultural issues that Jim also hit dead on, that Wyndham was one culture, Vicasa was a completely different culture, and then you have the massive infusion of capital with the expectations of moving very quickly with large integrations. It is almost polar opposite, right? So the devil is in the detail, and operations and integration are critical. We've been able to do this by putting everybody on one version of software. We have stuck with hosted systems as opposed to going with our own software development. And we've taken anyone who will come with us as an employee from those companies. So, we still have key employees from each of those companies that we have acquired, because the employees are the critical factor with the homeowners or the cabin owners. So, if you're going to do an integration right, you have to know, one, how to onboard and integrate in a proper manner, how to make sure your key employees stay with you, who are the connection to the homeowners, and you have to do it in a seamless of a manner to avoid disruption to the owner of the property. We keep the brand name. There's a reason why we still call it Jackson Mountain Homes and not V-Trips. It's because Jackson Mountain Homes is the name people know in this market. There's a reason why when we inherit a contract, when we onboard it, we keep the same terms and conditions. So if we were paying maintenance, we don't expect now the owner to pay maintenance. If the owner was getting certain benefits, we continue those benefits. And then we add the things also that, again, Vicasa and Turnkey, but you're going to get smashed again. They don't value operations. They just don't. So we built a laundry facility. We had the co-founder of Turnkey say, why would you build a laundry facility? Well, because cleaning is the backbone of operations. And if you don't understand operations, you're not going to be successful in this business long term.
So John, I was surprised at how much consolidation has happened in this market. We started looking at, when I was putting my invitation list together for this event, I'm like, oh, they're owned by their, it's just like going down the list. It was kind of surprising. And some people are out of business. From this perspective in this market, what are you seeing with this consolidation? And is it more of an opportunity for you, or do you think it's a threat?
I can't worry about what Vicasa's going to do. I can't worry about what Steve Milo does. I can only worry about what Bellums does and how we take care of our guests, how we take care of our owners, and how we continue to build those relationships. Okay, if there's a benefit of Vicasa buying in here and there's some stuff falling off the table for us, I'll take it, But have we had to adapt and have we had to change and have we had to, reduce commissions? We have. I mean, anybody that operates a property management company in this area has probably had to do that. Not always a good thing. Maybe it's not a great thing for the owner to pay a reduced commission. Sometimes they may get reduced services from companies. But, our continued focus at my company is to focus on retaining owners, building those relationships with them, and just taking care of our guests,
Do you think the homeowners see through a lot of this marketing coming from these multi-destination players when they hit the market?
Do they see a lot of
Do
marketing
they
from
see
them?
through it? Do they kind of call out the BS on some of this stuff?
Do owners?
Yeah.
Yeah. I have a couple cabins. I get flyers every week from companies. And, at a time, and I hear owners tell me this too, you just throw them away. You don't even look at them anymore. I mean, Steve mentioned something about a teaser and a flyer, coming on board with a lower commission and stuff. That's all good. You tie them down to a 2-year contract. I don't do that, okay? I don't give them teaser rates. I give them what our commission's gonna be, which I think is fair, and I give them the service for that. If an owner is not happy with our company, they can get out of their contract in 45 days. I don't want an unhappy owner with me. It's not good for me, it's not good for them. I'll let them out of the contract. Let me take care of those guests in a 45-day period, okay? And you can move on to who you think's gonna serve you better. I can tell you this, I haven't lost one to another company in 3 or 4 years due to that, okay? But that relationship has to be there with your owners.
So CJ, you said Vicasa came into your market, bought one of your top competitors, actually. No.
Honestly wouldn't consider them a top
Okay.
competitor. They had a lot of properties in their program, but that's about it.
Quality? Is that what
No.
you're talking about? Like, is that what we mean? Because they had quantity.
Quantity, but not equal inventory to what our program has. And what
So
our
he
portfolio
said
is.
one time, Eric said on a panel with us, that he had pretty much for every acquisition they take on, they expect a 10 to 15% attrition. I think the common thought was that the Wyndham acquisition could be north of that. In your market, you kind of looked at it as an opportunity. Am I correct on this?
Well, with this particular acquisition, there really were not a lot of, and I hate to be this way, but there really were not a lot of properties that would fit in our program. So we had calls, and the main call that we got from the owners that wanted to exit, they didn't like the new Vicasa contract. That was their main thing, because they did keep the owner of the program on, which was fine. And there were some relationships that I think that manager will be able to salvage. But when they looked at the actual contract, that's what they were calling out when they came into our office, saying, we don't like this or that, the national effect. They feel like they were losing that local property manager, even though the local property manager was technically staying on. They know better.
When you look at some of these other bigger companies, now we have Oyo, who's here, kind of looking at buying companies and maybe driving up that multiple a little bit, or they're driving it down, we don't know. I have a lot of questions on this, and I know you guys have a lot of answers, but is this going past the Vicasa being in buyer, going into the next level of buyers, the bigger pockets and things like that? Are you
More
seeing
buyers
that?
is better.
Do you think that they will, for the homeowner, for the destination, or for you? Like, I mean,
It depends
Just have a lot
on,
of
really
questions
it
here.
depends on the buyer. I mean, I see the moat getting wider for sure, harder to get in to the space as a startup, but also harder for the buyers to buy.
I mean, Amy, some of the information you're talking about is dated because really the tipping point was WeWorks. And the implosion of WeWorks has had a massive impact on the capital
I'm
markets.
going to play a drinking game with WeWork.
Starting with SoftBank, right? So SoftBank had accrued about a $100 billion capital fund, partly from our friends in the Middle East, the Saudis. And they just started to go on a spree of funding companies who had a non-profitable business model. These companies never made a dime, and in many cases didn't even have a legitimate path to making money. And WeWorks, obviously, when they went to try to go public, people started to take a look at the financials, and it was a house of cards, and it collapsed. From there, it started to affect other companies. Oya is one of them, and Oya's certainly come out and talked about that they're going to have to retrench. So if they're out here soliciting people, I'd like to see what deals actually get funded, because they are retrenching.
Right,
They're
who
not.
buys you then?
Well, PE firms are going to buy firms that make money, okay? So let's talk about what's real. What's real are businesses that make money and have an ability to scale like a platform, and you can buy at a lower multiple, and you're essentially the parts, or the whole is worth more than the parts. So in this business, many businesses sell for between 3 to 5 times your profit, your adjusted profit. So you take out whatever personal expenses you're running through, which a lot of you are, and you come up with your real profit, and you're going to sell at a multiple. Platforms are going to sell at a much higher multiple, and it's going to be probably in the teens based on the ability to buy smaller companies, absorb them, assimilate, gain synergies through G&A and through revenue enhancements. That is a real PE. That's been going on for hundreds of years, that companies buy other companies. It's called mergers and acquisition. It's a tried and true business model, and there's a place for it, and it'll never go bad. And PE firms, private equity firms, buy companies that are profitable. The companies that invest in companies like WeWorks, Oyo, Vicasa, Turnkey, are companies who are betting that at some point there's enough revenue growth that they can work their way to profitability. Now, when the market collapses or the market changes, you're not going to have an IPO. And when there's tremendous sentiment about the irrational elements of some of these plays where there's no path for profitability, the only option you have is to start to cut. And that we are seeing right now. We are seeing companies who are beginning to say, Expedia, that we have to cut our way into profitability.
But these are platforms, they're not hospitality companies.
It's going to happen with Oya. Oya's already announced layoffs. It's going to happen with Vicasa, for sure. That's why you don't just remove a CEO and founder of the company unless there's a major disagreement in strategy. You're going to see major cuts.
So,
Well, no, I got to jump on this.
please
man.
do. But more than that,
How many of
platinum, I
you?
disagree.
Yeah. How many of you have heard the term unicorn? Okay. Unicorns are companies that are valued at $1 billion. Their value is based off of profitability? No, it's revenues, a multiple of their revenues. So companies can literally get a unicorn valuation and be losing their shirts, okay? WeWork was one of them. WeWork was whatever the above a unicorn is, a triacorn or whatever. And they were burning through $100 million a quarter or more, I think. You got to separate the wheat from the chaff, guys. Everybody in this room hopefully is making money, okay? That's the bottom line. When I represent buyers, which is what we normally do, and we go look for a company, we're looking for a company that has EBITDA, has cash flow, okay? We're not buying companies that don't make money, okay? And the only strategy for a lot of the companies that are out there that are unicorns is to go public. That doesn't solve anything, because once you're public, you got to add another $2, $3, $4 million a year just to make the SEC not throw you in jail. So the model, this is .com all over again. This is the .com screw up all over again. And it
took 7 years to correct.
It is screwed. That is going to mess up. We got to promote profitability for anybody. So I'm off my soapbox now.
No, you can stay on it. Platinum bought Wyndham Europe,
Yeah.
private equity company, but did all the cutting immediately.
Yeah.
I mean, they started selling off the pieces immediately. So, I mean, I don't know the financials of Wyndham Europe. Were they?
They were profitable, but it was the better of the two. Wyndham USA had some pretty bad margins, but again, They were part of a public company. They were part of the timeshare division. They had been pushed down so low, the vacation rental side, that they were a rounding error. And that's why they decided to get rid of them, you know?
So you mentioned something out in the hall today that you thought with all this consolidation, we've actually become more fragmented and not less
Absolutely.
fragmented.
You know, let's be honest, guys. We were vacation rentals or cabin rentals. Now we have short-term rentals, which is the new term for urban, like short-term. Then we have the lease arbitrage companies that are called service departments in Europe, like Stay Alfred and Sonder, who go in and master lease apartment complexes or condo complexes, then lease them back out and keep the difference, the arbitrage. Those weren't around. I mean, we used to guarantee rent to go into a new market. We'd do 10 houses to get in the market, but we didn't take over 300 unit buildings and lease them. So in a way, our industry, and then everybody, the rank and file, even the press thinks Airbnb is a management company. We all know they're not, and they also think Airbnb is just a listing of all these nice husbands and wives who have an extra room when 80% of Airbnb is us. You know, same thing with VRBO or whatever they're calling themselves today. It's a different world, okay? There may be consolidation in one part, but we're the most fragmented bunch of weirdos in the world, and we still are. And it's not getting any better when we have unicorns in our industry too, because that just means they're not making money.
How many of you are using a HomeAway software platform like Escapia, V12? A few. So, CJ, we heard about some layoffs today at HomeAway. Has
No.
this got one? You've been a LiveRes user.
Correct.
Looking at the whole technology space right now, is technology an opportunity or a threat right now as you view it?
Well, it depends on how you use it. If I could, I want to bounce back to something they were saying, because profitability is important, and at the end of the day, nobody wants any of these larger companies coming in to fail. It's not good for anybody, at least short term, for the short-term rental space. Long term, right, at the end of the day, what it boils down to is a lot of individuals owning homes in local markets, looking at what the motivation is of the person that owns the home, and then being able to bring that service to them. And that's something that a local manager will always be able to do differently than a big company. I'm sure there are ways that a big company can come across as local and do things, and I think that's one of the big things to figure out. And now I'll go back to your question. Technology can help with that in some ways, and at the end of the day, I feel like every single person in here with a customer needs to know what their customer wants, right? And if they want more technology, then you need to find the technology that's going to service that customer the way that they want to be serviced. Not everybody wants that. We still have a front desk for a reason. People still like to come in and see a person on the other side of the desk and be able to have a conversation and know that when they're there, that there's actually somebody backing them up. So you can have magnificent marketing that's going through technology, but there's nobody there, right? You can have great operations that's behind the scene, way off the beaten path, nobody ever sees it. So I feel like at the end of the day, we're going to come full circle, and people still want high touch. You back it up with the technology, but they still want somebody there.
Looking at the last 5 years, what for you, CJ, what has changed in a way that has changed the way you do business? Like, is it changes at Google and marketing, or is it cost structures? Is it paying housekeepers? Like, where are the challenges over the last 5 years? What for what we're seeing now versus what we saw then?
Well, it is definitely, it's always going to be competitive, right? That's just going to change. The better you get, the better everybody else gets. They have to, and that's not a bad thing. That's good for the owners. When multiple property managers in an area get better, it's good for the guests. So, just reinvesting in our business through, employing the right people, putting them in the right seats so that they love their jobs. Your guests and your homeowners, they sense that and they feel it. Reinvesting in operations, because it does ultimately boil back down to the stay. like what happens when they're there. Being able to deliver clean laundry, right? So that when they show up, their beds are crisp and nice, and that the homes are clean, all of those things. That's really, when you look at your surveys, that's really what your guests care about the most.
Well, uniform laundry, right? Not what the owner has left over from 10 years ago.
Predictability in a lot of things. I think technology will help with that. I'd say that the home automation stuff, from a technology standpoint, is going to be kind of that's the next big frontier for everybody, because that has there's a lot of cool stuff you can do there.
John, same thing for you. 5 years ago versus today, harder or easier, the business?
Probably a little harder. I mean, the biggest challenge I see for us, and probably for some others, is owner acquisition. Like I said earlier, we don't really lose properties to other companies. We lose property when that property sells. And I can tell you probably 90% of those are going Airbnb or VRBO, okay? Will it come back around to when they see it's not easy? We all know in here that this is not easy. It takes a lot of work. But it may appear easy if you're buying a home. Oh gosh, I can just put it up on Airbnb. I'll get somebody to clean it, no big deal. It's going to come back around. I think those people will come back around. But we can't rest on that. You know, we still have to go out and acquire owners. And to me, that's the biggest challenge. I think the home automation thing is a really good thing. I don't know about the full scale thing. And is a guest going to rent a house because it's fully automated versus the same exact house that's not? I don't think so. You know, it's an added benefit to them, or maybe an added feature. But some people will also say, well, you're controlling my thermostat, or you're doing this. I mean, what else are you doing without automation? So there's some fears there. But anyway.
Definitely a balance.
Steve, same thing for you. 5 years ago versus today, what's harder or what's easier?
I mean, the business is easier. Technology's made it easier. We're good at technology. We're good at manipulating technology. The part that's made it harder is the companies that have come in and essentially are here today, gone tomorrow. And it's figuring out who's going to be around long-term versus the people that are here just temporary, to sell or to flip.
Which are you?
Well, right now we're a buyer. Someday we'll sell, but you know, no matter what, I control my own destiny, unlike my friend Eric Breon, because I run a profitable business and I get to make the choices. And everybody in this room should remember that is, you know, it's your choice whether you sell or not if you're profitable. If you're not profitable, it's going to be someone else's choice. And, you know, I've seen in this market, we've done some contract purchases of companies that just couldn't run profitable businesses and then got into trouble with their trust accounting. So, you know, technology does make the business easier if you are good at it, which is my aptitude. I'm good at distribution. I've automated all our properties into smart home technology. It's created a lot of synergies on the cost saving side, and then we've been able to get revenue enhancements on the marketing side. I will agree that owner acquisition is definitely the hardest part of our business right now, because we're seeing a lot of sales, particularly in Florida, of people who are just buying them to live, not even to rent. And then we see, you know, the Airbnb issue as well. And I agree, it's going to turn around, because the problem with the Airbnb model long term is it only works if Airbnb is your single platform and it can totally deliver a full booking calendar. The minute Airbnb area gets saturated with Airbnb owners or units, that model doesn't work, because you need multi-platform. So when I was talking earlier today, I talk about one of the things that we've been extremely good at, which is multi-distribution. So using multiple channels, not being dependent on any one channel, but using multiple distribution, which technology allows through APIs, is the key to giving you a competitive edge long-term.
Do I get to say, even though I don't own a company anymore?
Would you become a property manager again?
Not at my age, no. No. That's what kids are for. That's legal child abuse, actually. I think that there's a couple things. There's a positive and a negative of the last 5 years to now. The positive is definitely a technology, and the fact that for 30 years, I've been screaming that we need a Smith travel report for our industry, and we finally got it with Jason and Key Data. Finally. I mean, it's been a long haul. And keep making money, okay? The second thing is safety. And for those of you who didn't go to Justin Ford's presentation, there weren't a lot of you there. Guys, the litigation has ramped up dramatically, okay? I mean, dramatically. And I'm bearing the fruit of it. My son and I do an enormous amount of subject matter expert stuff, and it's on safety, okay? We don't have industry standards for safety, okay? That's a two-edged sword, okay? There was a company out in Idaho just had to, their vacation rental company had to pay a big old settlement because people died in a unit, okay? They didn't have a welcome book. They didn't have instructions of how to use the fireplace. They didn't have instructions at all. In fact, the prior company had welcome books, and they took them out of their units when they took over the management. Okay, you got to get serious about it, because our industry is now noticed. We're sexy, but we're also noticed by personal injury attorneys. And I think I'm at 6 cases active right now that all are going to fall on the management company, not just the owner. So keep it in mind. This isn't a sell for Justin, but go talk to Justin. He's got checklists and everything. Don't pretend you don't know about it, because it's going to get you. It is.
Going back, I'll hit the safety thing really quickly. Every time something happens at a vacation rental, it's all over the news. And of course, an Airbnb, somebody died in an Airbnb, or somebody trashed an Airbnb. So a few weeks ago, I set myself a Google alert for hotel shootings and hotel vandalisms, and I had to turn it off. It's every day. Every single day, there is violence, vandalism, or something bad happening in a hotel. To that point, I do want to address the safety issues, I do, and I think that level playing field is something that we need to get closer to for guests. However, this whole idea of demonizing the vacation rental world for a safety issue that happens every single day in any other type of environment, I think is a concern. Have you, when you're talking, especially to buyers in this industry, is there a real concern over regulations because of the exploitation of the things that are happening?
I'll start it. But I think a reason why our industry is getting more play on the injuries and the deaths on safety is because nobody knew we were an industry until recently. When I say recently, the last 5-10 years. I mean, when I was in it in the 80s, we were timeshare guys. We didn't do timeshare, but we were the closest thing to timeshare, so they called us all timeshare people. They hated people to the hotel company. Now, Airbnb, VRBO, everybody knows who we are, and so when a balcony collapses or a kid dies in a swimming pool, it makes the national news, even though we've had those issues. I'm not saying they're good, but unfortunately, I managed high-rise condos. We had a suicide a year. Every single year, we had somebody jumping off the top. It was there. Not good, but it was there. Our industry's getting noticed. There's good and bad to that. And the safety thing's going to be serious. I'll let him talk about regulations.
Well, let's talk real quick. I mean, I get that there's a lot of safety issues you can do with your properties, and this is all prudent. But the other thing everyone in this room should do is, if you haven't had a lawyer review your guest contract, make sure you do, and make sure that you get indemnified by the guest, and you have them initial where that indemnification is. And that means they're indemnifying that you're an agent as opposed to the owner of the property. Then make sure your owner contract indemnifies you. Then present your guest contract and your management contract to your insurance company, and make sure your carrier provides you the amount of protection you need, and figure out what your deductible is for legal costs. So these are all common sense ways where you can mitigate some of your potential liability within carrier and rental stuff. On the regulation front, I talked about it earlier today. The people in this room, you need to wake up if you live here. I get that there's people in this room that said, oh, we'll never get regulated. It's the engine of East Tennessee. 5 years ago, they said that in Sandestin, and
Orange Beach.
and then Orange Beach, and they got regulated. And I mean, I would join if there was actually an organization here, but I can't even find an organization that wants to get together and start to really talk about advocacy and about working with the state and at the state level, making sure that this industry is protected. Because it's only a matter of when, not if, that something's going to happen, and it's going to be blamed on over occupancy. And we all know, everyone in this room knows, these cabins, some of these cabins have too many people crammed into them. And so we either as an organization get together and get in front of this issue, or we end up on the back end. So as
Actually,
someone
Steve,
said,
there is an organization in Sevier County with that, and it's the Smoky Mountain Vacation Lodging Association. I'm not sure if
I
you've ever
haven't
been
heard
to a
from them.
meeting.
I'm a member. I haven't seen an email from them in
Have
a
you ever
long
been
time.
to a meeting?
No, I don't even know when the meetings
Okay,
are.
okay. Just that group is working on this. We do have representatives in Nashville looking at this and representing our interest. It's been going on for several years now, so maybe after this meeting, you can sit down with myself, Ed Hill, Brad Ivins. We can talk you through some of the things that we've been doing.
Okay, well, we'd like to, this is the thing about this, this stuff is, if it's actually going on, and I've got a little bit of influence, I'm also heavily involved in the national organization, it needs to be communicated, because, I mean, I'm extremely in touch with stuff in Florida, and even Georgia and other states we're in, and, I mean, I'm a member of that organization because I got my VLS through it, and, I mean, I get nothing. I have no data that comes back from them at all, and they have all my information.
I think CJ, going back to John's point, you also are part of the Lodging Association there. You guys have done a lot to build events, and this goes into building shoulder seasons and how you can work together in an organization. This destination seems to work really closely together. Yours certainly does. What's the value in that?
It's priceless.
I mean, your best friends are here, right? And
Yeah,
they're your
we've got-
competitors.
Well, we call each other friendly competitors because there are things that we do need to be friendly about, and there are other things that we keep to ourselves and we operate, we do our businesses. But at the end of the day, what we wanted to be able to do was put some sort of standardization in place, just at a business level where we could self-monitor. We didn't really want to create a police force amongst ourselves or anything like that. And we built it around a platform of creating an event. That's what brought us all together. But since then, we've been able to do continuing education in our market. Now that Georgia is working on getting a law together, I'm working with the VRMA and some other people there. But for the Lodging Association, they know that I'm on that. So if I've got questions, like Paul and I were outside talking today, and that's, kind of catching him up on some of the notes, and he can give me his thoughts back and, so forth and so on. And then you got Brad, who's in the audience. He's part of our organization as well. So it is very, very beneficial. And I think any area, it wasn't extremely difficult to set up. You just needed a few people that would cooperate to get started. Again, the event, which is the Blue Ridge Blues and Barbecue, that attracted other people to it. It was like moths to a flame. When we started it, the local officials, they were skeptical about what we were doing. Now, whenever we're walking around, it's like they're patting our back, shaking our hands.
What was
Thank you
the
so much for
occupancy
bringing
that
these
weekend
people.
before the event?
Say again?
What was the occupancy that
It was
weekend?
nearly nothing.
And now it's?
85% plus. It's that one weekend, but it's one day, and it's a great event. I mean, the community comes out. We get people from all over the Southeast, and it's a worthwhile cause, I believe, for any other market that is willing to put a little bit of time and energy into it and sit in the same room with some of their competitors and get along. I mean, it's not that not that hard to do.
For John, for Gatlinburg, is it friendly competition, or is it competition?
I think so. My best friends are other property managers that own companies. I mean, we share stuff. There's stuff we hold private. But you have to be. I mean, you can't.
We all have a lot of common
You can't
challenges.
knock.
too,
Well, you're
that
kind of
we can
competing against
bring.
each other too, right? Like Blue Ridge and Gatlinburg.
That's a different story, but yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
I'm not trying to start anything.
no. I
There's
there
enough.
probably is some, but
Yeah.
I mean, maybe the person wants to go to Blue Ridge wants quietness. They don't want to walk down the Pigeon Forge or Gatlinburg Parkway, get hit by a go-kart, run off the track or something. It's probably different people, but could be some of the same.
So, Jim, coming back to the whole like threats on the industry and kind of the big picture, because you put buyers and sellers together. What is a buyer looking for in a seller right now?
I think that the main things that we look at, because we tend to source them for our buyers before we even show them to our buyers, is is your act together, okay, in general. Do you have good sets of P&Ls? Do you have a good processes set up? Or are you just running around chasing your own tail? The second thing is if you as an owner, and I'm speaking to the owners out there, if you as an owner are the one that is dealing directly with your homeowners on a day-to-day basis and you want to sell, you better change. And you better cross-sell your employees, have more than one, because a buyer's going to come in and may not want to keep you around, but if you're the only one that can talk to the owners, you're not as attractive an acquisition target. Get your P&Ls together. Know what you're running through the company that you may not should be running it through the company because you're private. I'm not saying you don't do it. I'm saying, but know where it is in the P&L because we're going to want to pull that stuff out. So if you've got gym memberships and a leased car and you got housekeepers on payroll doing your personal home, know where those are hidden up in your P&Ls. And if you're not doing that and you're paying Uncle Sam, shame on you guys, but I can't say that. They want to know the processes are in place. They want to see your contract. If your contract does not have an assignment clause in it that you can assign the contracts, change them today for every new contract you sign. Say, this contract's freely assignable by either party at any time. What do you care if the owner gives it to the guy that buys this guy? You want him to. But you got to be able to, because on an asset purchase, you don't want to ask the owner, okay?
And Jim,
Yeah.
and John said, he likes to have kind of, what's do you have a 30-day out clause on your contract? 45.
Yeah.
Okay. If you're looking to sell your business, you may want to really take a look at your length of term. The longer your term is, the more valuable your contract is. The more valuable your contract is, the higher the multiple you're going to get on your business. So I understand everybody wants to be a good person and let owners leave early. Look, we have 2-year contracts. We can let an owner leave early if we want to, but that 2-year contract is sticky. And what it does, if someone ever were to buy us, it gives whoever buys us a lot more comfort that there's not going to be a ton of contract churn. So if you actually are going to be selling your business, really think about the contract you have. We walked away from a deal because it was just the contracts were so loosey-goosey. And then there were contracts that were missing and stuff like that. If you really want to sell your business, make sure you have all your contracts in an electronic area because that's going to be one of the first things we're going to ask for in due diligence. Jim's right. Make sure you can assign them, that it's not that you need an agreement of the owner because that creates massive complications. And make sure that the contracts have a stickiness if you want to sell. If you don't want to sell, then don't worry about it.
And let me add a couple more things. As Bill Brennan would do if he was up here, he's back there and he's still on his medication from the last deal we completed. Don't just, if you get into a situation where it looks like there's a deal coming together, don't just go down to your estate planning lawyer down the street and have them represent you, okay? Don't go down the street and have your local CPA who's real good at doing your income taxes look over your purchase price allocation. You have got to get off your wallet and hire a transactional attorney to represent you, okay? They're good ones all over the place. But don't just think this attorney's great because he wrote my will for my dog, okay? Ben Edwards could tell us, there are so many deals that the attorneys got in the way instead of help to facilitate a closing. When you have a good attorney on your side, it's an asset. They're called counselors for a reason. So you got to surround yourself. Now that attorney may be great for everything else, but you got to stay in a box because more deals get blown up by the advisors like me than because of the metrics of it, okay? And I will tell you, Cliff with rented does the best job of doing a presentation on contracts. It may sound boring, but Steve's right. You should see some of the contracts we look at from a buy side. It's embarrassing how they're written, okay? And there's ones in there, we're working with one now that he's not allowed to assign the contract. It literally says, you can't assign this contract. How do you sell? How do you sell? You got to get every owner to say, okay, I'll let you sell.
It's a contract sale.
It's a contract sale.
And look, and if you want to do a contract sale, it's great, but you're not going to get as much value for your business. I'm just telling you right now, you will not get as much value for your business if you want to do a contract sale. We just did it with one company we purchased, and they literally we're paying them a certain fee per every contract that they sign that's a Jackson Mountain Home contract. So they have to convince the owner to allow them to terminate their contract, and then they have to convince the owner, sign this new contract. That is hard. It's not easy.
I agree.
So I want to say one more thing. Jim, you work with the OnSite Property Management Association as well. You've got a conference coming up in May that I think we're going to be able to help you with, which I'm excited about. Can you tell us a little bit about that? First of all, about the association and why it's different than like a VRMA.
Okay. About 6 or 7 years ago, a bunch of us that were always managing or predominantly managed on-site, whether that's the lobby of a high-rise condominium or the front desk at a resort. We kind of came together, and we're all members of VRMA. We're all very involved with you, Amy. We just felt like it was a little more specialized. We had certain unique needs that are different. A lot of us, when you have full service hotel, it's condo hotels basically and resorts. So we formed, somebody other than me came up with the name OPMA, the OnSite Property Managers Association, tongue twister. And we do 2 summits a year, and we get together, and it's
like
not
Verbo.
Yeah, like Verbo. It's a smaller crowd, but it's a lot of C-suite people that are sitting around talking about very good stuff, and it's become very, very good. It's just it's a mixture of small and very, very large. All of the large players who are on site are members.
Very large companies.
Very large companies, and and it's not to say we exclude smaller ones. It's just they're bigger because they're on site, so they get it may be a little different. Well, we do 2 a year, and this year we made a decision for the May Summit, which is at Hammock Beach Resort, which is in Flagler County, Palm Coast, Florida. Beautiful resort. I should know the dates, but I don't. It's early May.
It's May 6th, 7th, and 8th.
Thank you, May 6th, 7th, and 8th. We're opening up this summit only to anybody who's not a member as well, okay? Whether you're on-site or off-site, if you want to see that part of the industry, look it up. It's theopma.org, and you're free to come. All the registration's on there.
Steve Milo also lives there, so we're throwing a party at his house.
Yeah. We're going to have him and Turnkey do a party together and invite the
Yes.
Inhabit
I think
IQ
we can
people
do
will be
that.
sponsoring it, okay? But if you can make it, it's a different twist on the industry, and it's a pretty cool group of people. And if you're even thinking about ever going on site and having an office with a lobby or having a front desk in a resort,
HOA, POA, COA,
a lot of food and beverage, any of that, come. It's a great event, and it's just a subsection of us, whatever us is.
Well, I'm gonna play that video as we go out. But guys, I really wanted to say thank you for doing this. I know it's sometimes uncomfortable, but I think it helps everybody to be able to hear from you guys and what you think is going forward. Really quickly, and I mean like really quickly, Steve, like under 30 seconds, what's your prediction for the 2020? By 2029, where are we?
Boy, that's a long ramp. I would not be surprised that one or more of the OTAs starts to buy property management companies. I would not be surprised if 1 or 2 of the major hotels start to buy property management companies, and we start to gain consolidation and standardization, which is badly needed in this industry. The good news is there's always going to be a place for small, niche. Whatever you do, make sure you do well, just like what CJ's talking about. He's very picky and selective about what he's picking. So there's always going to be a place for everybody in this room, but there will also be an opportunity to potentially sell if you follow some of the things that we talked about up on the stage.
Jim, 2029.
I'll be retired. I'll be living in Nashville in a suburb called Franklin. My kids will be running my company, and my wife and I won't look back. But other than that, I think the industry will be just fine. I think here in the Smokies, you guys are on a trajectory. I think you guys are going to have a fantastic decade here.
I think Jacoby just said he thought he'd be retired by 2029.
Yeah, Jacoby wants to be retired, but these millennials, man, what did we invent in this world?
How many of you are millennials before we make jokes?
Oh, I'll make
All
jokes.
right, I'll stop now.
Okay, how many millennials here work for Turnkey or Inhabit IQ? So that Steve,
So the double whammy, right?
no,
Hey.
no. All I'll
We're
say
out of
is
time. CJ.
we're in. Jacoby and I do deals in all markets. We're Hawaii, South Florida, Maine, you name it. This is the market I'm the most bullish on, and I believe that. I mean, I think you all have a really cool situation, and you're not, I know the fires were horrible, but you're not subject to the weather changes that everybody else does around. I mean, Yeah,
It's true. One of the things in Jason's data that I think is worth saying that the markets on the Gulf Coast did not perform as well in 2019.
When
as
you have
the
a
data
hurricane,
here on
if you
any
have a
level.
tropical storm coming off of Cuba in July, everybody's done.
Yeah.
It doesn't even have to hit you, and you're done.
It creates, we've seen the occupancy go up when the tropical storms come up the coast. I mean, the hurricanes and tropical storms are good for business here.
So,
And no, that's not a joke. That is
Yeah.
true.
Not that we're praying for them or anything.
yeah.
Well, it was
CJ, for
interesting
you.
what Sprinkle was showing this morning when he showed the map of where the draw is to this area and how it was spread all through the central U.S. and up the coast, where some of the other markets were pulling from, much smaller areas, more volume from those areas. But if something hits one of those areas, it can definitely affect them a lot more. So I don't disagree with what Milo was saying as far as some of the other players getting in that have traditionally stayed in their lane for the period of time that they've been in. But I also, I think that you're going to see a lot more local property managers getting hyper-focused on local and looking for niches within their local markets. One of the big ones, and I've been saying this for years, is aging inventory within your programs, figuring out ways to help those owners fix their homes up. Because getting new inventory is important, but also keeping the inventory that you've got and improving it is also a way to increase your revenue. It takes a little bit more lifting, but it is a worthwhile thing to do, including building your own, right? So that's something that we've dived into, and I love it, and I think we're going to see more of it. And I definitely think that we're going to see more people coming into the operator space for sure.
Kind of agree with CJ on that. I just hope in 9 years I'm standing and breathing, and it will be my daughter's problem, or not problem, my daughter's company to deal with at that time. So.
Yeah. Guys, thank you so much. Jim, will you play that video so we can show it? And I really appreciate it.